Welcome back. In this video, we are going to read and discuss some AITAs. I've got Reddit pulled up. Let's jump right into it. AITA for asking my roommate to silence his phone at night. Just based on the title, that's a hard one. I can see both sides of it. Like, obviously, if your phone's ding-danging and banging, like, I need you to turn it off so I can sleep in the next room. But at the same time, I cannot have my phone silenced at night. Like, it just, like, sends me into a literal panic attack. Like, I need to be made aware of things. Like, one of my biggest fears is things happening, and I'm just, like, sleeping through it, and, like, there's this whole horrific, huge scene, and I'm just over there, like, that's, like, worst case scenario in my mind. So, I'm pretty biased right off the bat that, like, I'm not silencing my phone. I don't know what to tell you. Get some earplugs. I don't know. I cannot silence my phone. Let's read the story. On a 6-month military deployment, and I shared a barracks room with a dude from another branch who will be my work partner for the time I'm here. It's not mandatory that we are bunked together, just happened that way. I can tell this guy has never had roommates before with some of the things he does, i.e. he doesn't flush pee or poop sometimes, listens to music late at night, and farts anywhere and everywhere. I'm 10 years older than him, and I try to just be chill about this. Let me just read on before I get too distracted on my own thoughts about this. However, the thing that caused me to speak up was that his iPhone would go off in the middle of the night with various notifications. He's dead asleep. I'm a light sleeper, and I normally keep my phone on silent during the day and do not disturb at night. After about a week, I politely asked him if he doesn't mind putting his phone on do not disturb. He responded that he needs his phone on in case of an emergency. I had many thoughts run through my head, but I kept them to myself, one of them being, you don't even wake up with your phone going off. I wanted to offer to show him how to set up customization do not disturb, but it seemed the conversation was dead. Anyways, apparently this made me insufferable to be around, and he requested a new room. Now I feel like other folks think I'm some kind of monster of a roommate, but when folks ask me what happened, I choose not to talk behind the guy's back. AITA. I don't really understand this whole, like, someone's a monster. It's just, you guys just have different living needs. Nobody's a monster. This doesn't need to be a Reddit post. This doesn't need to be a post anywhere this doesn't need to be a thought in your head. Literally, you didn't like rooming with the guy. He didn't like rooming with you, so you're not gonna room together. Problem solved. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What opinion? Who's the asshole? Nobody. What do you mean? Like, we're not starting off strong with opinionated. What am I even trying to, like, I'm not starting off strong and opinionated here, but, like, literally, what's the problem? You didn't like living with him. He doesn't like living with you. So you're not gonna live together. So he requested a different room. That was literally what I was gonna read the rest of the story, but, like, that was what I interjected to say in the middle, was like, what, can you just switch, like, you said it's not mandatory for you guys to be together. Can you, like, ask for a room change? If he's got, like, little things, like, I don't know. I was kind of, like, having a lot of thoughts about that, because I was like, am I the bad roommate? Because I don't flush pee. That's just a waste. I mean, I probably would if I was living in that situation, though. Just to say. Like, I either live with, like, I've really only lived with boyfriends. So, I don't know. Anyways, beside the story, you guys could chastise me, tear me apart for that, if that's, like, a thing. That's a big deal. I listen to music late at night. Am I the bad roommate? Is that why I don't think this guy's a bad roommate? But it really does seem like it's just like, if you guys are not both getting along in your environment, one of you should try to leave, and that's just that. Like, you're not an a-hole at all for needing your sleep and needing quiet. By no means does that make you an a-hole. He's not an a-hole for wanting to live comfortably in his living accommodations either. Let me, I guess to, like, give my official answer to the question, like, I'm gonna go with NTA, with a clarification that the other guy's not an a-hole either. I don't think there's any a-hole here. Let me, read the comments, though, and see what's going on in there. NTA, phone gets silenced at night. He should not be able to own a phone if he cannot be bothered to understand how D&D options work. Okay, I don't understand how D&D, like, is that only an iPhone thing? Is it an Android thing? Or is that just a I'm too old and unaware thing? Like, I've heard of, obvious, but like, I don't know anything about D&D. I don't know how it works. I don't even know if I have that option on my phone. Never looked, because I'm not interested at all. At all. Like, if I don't want to be disturbed, I do have the option of turning off my phone. I never take that option. Like, why would you be unaware in a world where you could be aware? You know? Like, what? I don't know. Again, I completely understand if somebody doesn't want their phone dinging all night, but I'm not shutting mine off. Like, we're gonna have to live separately, because I'm not shutting my phone off. I can't. It's like, it literally sends me into panic. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird phone obsession that I have, but I think it's more than that. It's just like a weird, like, panic thing that I have. I need to be aware of what's going on. The thought of my BFF, like, dying on the side of a road, calling me over and over, and me not getting a call. And I understand, again, like, I guess the D&D settings, but I have no interest in that. Like, I want to hear from everybody. Maybe my friend's phone is dead, so she's calling from some random stranger's phone on the side of the road. Like, I'm not going to get that call, and she's going to, like, pass without me ever hearing from her, because I had my phone set to only answer a call from her phone specifically. Like, I don't know. I'm not silencing my phone. I don't think anybody's an a-hole there. I feel like I've reiterated that enough. Is there any other comments? Oh, this one says YTA. This is the army. You're not supposed to be comfortable. So you could say that it somehow helps you get used to the difficult situations. Additionally, it's his phone, so let him set it up for himself, not for you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wouldn't agree that YTA, but... And the other one, NTA. When you're living with a roommate, you need to be considerate of those around you. That guy is gross and inconsiderate, and it shows. Do not worry. Also, it's like the farting. That was the other thing I was going to say, farting thing. You're in the privacy of your home. Like, your roommates are going to experience you a little bit more personally than they might like. Like, I don't really choose roommates. I haven't had to yet. I probably will soon. Ooh. I haven't had to ever choose, like, to go the roommates route. But if I did, like, I gotta, like, yes, there's a certain level of, like, okay, maybe if you gotta rip a stinky one, like, you could step outside. But it's like, sometimes you're just living life and you fart, and that's okay because you're in your house. Like, it depends on, like, how extreme these things are. All of these things that he's saying, like, if done to the extreme, could be a problem. But if done just because someone's living their life, wouldn't be a problem. So it depends on, like, the extremity of it. Like, people fart inside their houses sometimes. I don't know. But I'm going with an NTA on that one. And let's move on to a different one. Interesting. Would I be the a-hole if I told my mom, 61, female, either my brother, 23, male, moves out, or I, 23, female, move out? Would you... So, okay, well, I don't know why she added the ages in the title. Numbers absolutely wreck my brain. I seriously, literally just 3 simple numbers like that, and I'm like, what happened? Would I be the a-hole if I told my mom either my brother moves out or I do? Initial reactions is like, yeah, kind of. I think so, because again, it says right here, he's 23, you're 25. You're both grown old adults. So, if you're not liking your living situation, you need to move out. Kind of piggybacking off the last one, but let's see what the story says. My mom and I planned to buy a 4-bedroom house together, and our deal was I would contribute $1,200 monthly until it was paid off, and she would pay utilities so I could save up. I didn't plan on moving out for years, but I made sure to explain that buying the house was more an investment into her and not an agreement to live there forever. It all went off the rails when my brother's car crapped out. It was leaking oil for days until it stopped working and cost thousands to fix. We thought he used all the money to move to fix his car, but found out later he used credit cards, didn't pay them off, and was over $10,000 in debt. He's been paying it off since then, about 4 years ago, but I have no idea what his financial situation is now. That was the end of our original plan. That didn't include my brother living with us, especially since the house we found cost more than we planned. My mom still got her home office, but my brother got the extra room I was promised in our agreement because he couldn't move out. 4 years later, and he has no plans of going anywhere. He doesn't clean anything, ever. He calls me fat, ugly, other words that I'm not going to say that should be censored. That's okay. Wow. I'm not going to say those words online, but he's saying some really awful things to her. Some really derogatory, like really awful things. If it was just me and my mom, our arrangement would be working out fine, but my brother has been putting a strain on everything. His financial situation, plus him still having car payments, plus our property taxes going up. I've had to pay $200 monthly since a year after we moved. I should have made a new financial plan for myself, but I have depression, and still living with my brother for so long has made it even worse, and I haven't been able to save. What's that got to do with the... Anyway, okay, let me read the whole story. My job pays pretty well for entry-level accounting with no experience, but I will never be able to afford a place on my own while paying my share of the mortgage on my current salary. I feel really trapped, and it sucks because I love my mom. Every time I bring anything up with her about this, she sees it as me harping on my brother or being dramatic, and it's infuriating. I can't stand living with him. She doesn't plan on ever retiring, but I refuse to renege on my end of the deal, paying on the mortgage until it's paid off, even if I didn't get everything I was promised. Aside from depression, I have other physical problems that make it difficult for me to do normal things sometimes. I also have extreme fatigue, but I think I really have to buckle down here and get into a better situation. Possibly taking on another role at work and working overtime if they'll allow, or getting a second job. By the way, I'm aware I was a bit naive about the finances of it all. I'm very good with money for my age, but I wish I had thought harder about it and realized nothing when it comes to housing over cost what you think it will. Okay, I think that was worded differently, but basically she's realizing suddenly that like living in a home costs more than you originally think it will, which yeah, that's usually the case. Cut me some slack on that part, please. I'll answer any questions asked. Okay. So basically, you and the mom made the deal. You end up paying a lot more. I'm really not understanding what that's got to do with your brother, though. Like, the main issue that you're talking... Well, you're kind of talking about two different issues, right? The main issue here, or the one that I consider more important, is the finances of it all. You're having like all of this stress and weight on top of you because you've ended up paying a lot more per month than you expected to. I don't see how that has anything at all to do with brother living there. You're not saying like, oh, he's eating all my groceries or this or that. It's like, it's just, you said right here, it's just like, you say his financial situation, plus him still having car payments, plus our property taxes going up. I've had to pay $2,000 monthly since we moved in. What does him not having a car, like, are you paying his car payments? She didn't mention that. Like, I don't understand why him simply living in the home has anything to do with your property taxes. Am I just stupid? Or, like, that has nothing to do with each other, right? It doesn't matter how many people are living in the house. Like, it just depends on how much you bought the house for. Honestly, I'm not even 100% sure. I don't pay property taxes. I don't freaking own a home. Hello, millennial here. We don't own homes. Anyways, but my point is, like, I feel like because you have all of this emotional stress and turmoil and you just simply do not like him living there, it's not the deal you made and all of that, which is understandable. Like, I would be irked too if I was still paying on a deal that we made that wasn't, where I wasn't getting what I was supposed to get out of that, right? So I understand the OP being, like, irked, bothered, etc. by having bro there. But what does that have to do with the financial situation? Like, I feel like OP is like mixing all of her problems and trying to use this one little other problem that really isn't connected as like the reason for all of it. You're depressed. You have some sort of medical thing that is like leaving you exhausted and unable to do regular thing. Like, you ended up paying more in property taxes than you thought you would. Like, I don't understand what that has to do with the brother literally at all. He's not causing those things. He's not making those things worse. Like, I feel like you're just frustrated and now you're just taking everything out on it. You know what I mean? Let me go down. So to answer the question, I don't see how it's really. I'm trying to like form my thought here. I'm not sure if I think what I'm about to say or not. As I started saying it, I was like double guessing. But I was going to say, I'm really not sure how this is a discussion or debate. If this is your home and you don't want someone living there, period. But then, as I was about to say that, I was thinking, it's like, yeah, but it's your mother's home too, and that's your mother's son. So I understand how she would be vehemently for him being there. But at the same time, like, it just, I'm sorry, but like, family is kind of removed from this. Like, the brother being family is a little bit removed from this because we have a legal agreement. Like, we have a deal that we've made. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go with an NTA. No, I don't think that she would be the a-hole if she's like, look, either he goes and we do our deal or we don't do our deal. And I don't think actually she's even saying, I feel like she's being too forgiving. Like, she's still willing to pay. Weird. But anyways, let me scroll down. I'm gonna go with an NTA. Let me go and see if there's comment, blah, 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 blah. NTA, this commenter says, you're subsidizing your brother, giving you a low quality home environment. It's unclear what your joint financial goal is with your mother. Would you turn the house over to her once it's paid off? Does she not make much money? If she can afford the house without your contribution, she may choose to let your brother stay. Just be prepared. That was more questions than a comment. You're subsidizing your brother, giving you a low quality home environment. That's what I'm saying. It's like you guys have made an official deal and the deal is being switched and changed and you have every right to not be okay with that. So I went with an NTA. If you were both on the deed, then she can have anyone she wants live in her house. If she's the only person on the deed, then you helped buy a house for your mother. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure that we got all the details, obviously. Like, we don't know, like, where the deed stands. Let me read this comment, because I saw the first sentence, and I'm like, hold on. YTA. Sending a family member to homelessness makes you an a-hole, full stop. I so vehemently disagree with that first sentence. But let me read the rest and like get context and see what the full thought is they're having here. If you can't afford to move out, how the hell can he? How will your mother feel if he ODs on the street or something in a few years after you forced him to move out? You said he's paying off the debt. I assume he's working. Shit's bad out there and it's straining everyone. It sucks for everyone. Whoa, I feel like this commenter really has like a really traumatic past experience about him being put on the street by his family and then like turning to drugs, because that was like way too emotional and direct and specific to just be a random thought or comment. No, I do not think that sending a family member into homelessness makes you an a-hole. Stop blank. I'll give you the example of my family member. Like, I'll try not to add too much. I don't know how much I should share about somebody else's story, but it's like, it's mine as well. My family member has issues with drugs. A lot of issues with drugs. Reoccurring issue with drugs over and over and over. And no matter how many times she comes crawling back and we try to help her again, she will run back to the drugs. And at a certain point, it starts to deteriorate us, our life, our finances, our living situation, constantly bringing a drug addict back into our home, trying to help someone who is incapable of accepting help, right? And I understand that's very different than what this is. Like, that's what this commenter is talking about. That's not really what the story had anything to do. Like, we've taken an aside for sure, because I don't know. It's just like, for him to jump to like, oh, hey, like, you should move out and handle your own things. Just like, oh my God, you're putting him on the streets. He's going to OD on drugs. It's like, I just calm down. Like, That's such an extreme reaction, I feel like. Let me see what other people are saying. NTA, you could get a roommate and share costs if you're already planning 2K, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, NTA. Yeah, NTA, your mom went back on the deal. She is the a-hole. And I do agree with that. I completely understand helping family, but I do think there's limits on it. I really do. Like, I would not do any and everything for my family. There's limits. I will do what I can do for you without harming myself. And I do feel like that's reasonable. And I do feel like having an uncomfortable living situation is harming myself. Now, there's different levels, of course. Like, some of that I could withstand based on the others. But it's like, there's a deal in place here. And the mom's going back on it. So I'm going with an NTA. I feel like most of the comments did too. Oh, I'm interested in this one just because I'm like vegan myself, and I'm feeling like this has something to do with it. AITA, from eating meat at my aunt's house when my dad wasn't around. I'm interested to hear why. Like, obviously the dad doesn't want to eat meat or something, right? Let's see. So I'm 15, male. I live with my dad, 45, male, and his boyfriend, Mark, 40, male. My mom died from cancer when I was 9, and then a year later, dad came out as gay and started dating Mark. They've been together since, and I'm cool with it. I just want dad to be happy. The issue is that since dad got with Mark, he's become a hardcore vegan. Like, out of nowhere. We went from eating normal food to everything being plant-based. At first, I thought it was just going to be at home, but no, dad decided that I'm not allowed to eat anything that's not vegan, even when I'm not at home. He says it's about ethics and not supporting animal cruelty, which I get, but I don't see why I can't make my own choices when I'm away from the house. So here's where I might have messed up. I stay with my aunt every other weekend. She's always been really chill and doesn't have all these crazy rules like dad. A few weeks ago, I was at my aunt's place and she asked if I wanted a burger for dinner. Dad wasn't there, so I figured, why not? I haven't had meat in forever and I was really missing it. I ate the burger. It was amazing, honestly. I didn't think it was a big deal since I wasn't at home and dad wasn't around. But then, when dad came to pick me up, my aunt mentioned it. She wasn't trying to cause drama, she just casually brought it up and my dad lost it. He totally flipped out on my aunt, saying she was disrespecting him and his choices and that she shouldn't be feeding me stuff that goes against his rules. Then he turned on me, calling me ungrateful and saying I've betrayed him and everything he's been trying to teach me. Since then, he's been giving me the silent treatment and hasn't talked to me at all. It's super awkward at home now. I feel like I was just making my own decision, especially since I wasn't even at home. But now I'm wondering if I should have respected his rules even when I'm not with him. I really don't want to hurt him, but this whole thing feels so unfair. AITA for eating meat at my aunt's house when my dad wasn't around, or should I have just stuck to his vegan rules even when I'm not at home? So as a vegan like myself, you might expect me to have the view of being like agreeing with the dad. Not even close, not at all, not a little bit. I vehemently disagree with the dad's behavior here. I understand full-heartedly. I understand the reasoning behind the dad's behavior. I understand where the dad is coming from with that. I understand why the dad is so passionate and cares so much. But here's the thing is your morals are your morals and you cannot force them upon others. Like, that is the least effective way of activism. And that's essentially what this is meant to be, is activism. The dad is trying to do activism and get someone to eat less of the animal, right? But it's like you're doing the absolute least effective form of activism. Like, I wouldn't even call it, I would literally call it harming your cause. And I do see a lot of like crazy vegans who, again, I understand they come from a good place. They have every and only good intentions, but they get so passionate that I feel like their emotions overweigh their logic. And they try to take this like forceful emotional approach to others. That worked for me personally. I saw the emotional images and story, got emotional, and like started upon my vegan journey from there. But I'm sort of a unique person I'm very emotional, blah, 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 all these things. Like, that, just because that worked for me, in my, like, 10 something, whatever, 10, 12 something years of being vegan, I have, and being an activist for most of it, like, especially in the beginning, like, the first 5, 10 years, like, I was at protests, I was outside chicken farms, I was, like, out there holding the PETA sign. Like, I was, like, your stereotypical vegan activist out there with the bullhorn, like, who, like, whatever. And I've just learned a lot. I've seen what tactics are working and what are not. And in fact, a little bit more recently, we've actually got a little bit of, like, actual studies on activism. It's really hard to study activism, but you can take the really rudimentary studies that we currently have on, like, vegan activism and activism in general, and you compare that with what we know about psychology and how people tend to behave. And it tells you 1,000,000% over that trying to force your morality onto other people doesn't work. You can have a much better time of it, and you will have much better results if you figure out, if you temporarily can, like, set aside your differences, figure out what your connections are, figure out where you're the same on, figure out what things you do agree on, start from there. And then slowly, once you have an understanding and some respect of each other, you can start to broach these other topics that you don't agree on, have polite discussion, have, like, cite information and things like the biggest, best way, according to all of the data that currently exists, which is not that much, but according to everything that exists right now, the best way is literally to just politely inform people via social media, because that's, like, the best way to talk to massive people, right? It's like pretty much, like, to sum it down to the most simplest of explanation, like, that's what the research says is really by far and above the most effective way to get people to change their behavior is just informing them, politely informing them, like, often, over and over and over, like, keep it on their mind. Like, the first couple times you hear something, you're not going to make a big change in your life, but if you keep hearing it, you hear more, you'll start thinking about making a change. And before I get, like, way too off topic, I say all of that to say that, like, that's why I'm so vehemently against the dad here. Basically, if you take everything that kid has ever known, every comfort food that kid has, every family dinner, and you just remove or completely change all of that, all of a sudden, at 15, like, you're pretty, like, I know you're still very malleable, you're still very adjustable, but, like, you're really accustomed to things already at 15. And to just, like, yank all of that away in one fell swoop, like, even I didn't go vegan, like, instantly. You know what I mean? Like, I worked up and, like, I was still eating cheese and stuff for quite a while because I was just like, oh no, I can't, that's the last thing I can't give up. So don't give up the last thing, give up the other things that are easy, right? But anyways, to go just, like, full force like that and expect everybody else in your life to go full force like that is just really inappropriate, in my opinion. Like, I had a boyfriend who, me and him, like, ate meat and dairy regularly when I first went vegan. I came home, and that first night, like, he came home and I had us dinner ready, and it was pasta, like, with just plain pasta, no meat. There would usually be meat in there. And he's like, oh, like, we need to go to the grocery tomorrow? I'm like, no, actually, I just, like, chose not to make the meat. And then I kind of thought about it for half a second. I was like, oh my God, like, in that moment, like I said, like, I understand it, because I got so emotional. Like, the things that I learned and saw and what these animals are going through and everything, I became overwhelmed with emotion. I was like, oh no, like, we're never eating meat again. But when he came home and I had, like, a real person sat in front of me being like, oh, but this is, like, what I'm used to and what I'm expecting and blah, blah, blah. Like, I came home from a long day. I'm expecting my comforts that I'm used to. I had to really stop and think. I was like, oh, like, that's my bad. I will cook you some meat if you want me to, because just because I had known and learned all this doesn't mean that they had. And now, my guy was really great at the time. We're still literally best friends even after we broke up. But, like, the dude was, like, so great about it at the time. Like, he was super receptive. I think it helped a lot that I just did most of the cooking and he wasn't that picky about cooking. So I typically just started putting in more and more vegan meals and he went with it. But I've discovered that with other people too. It's like the best way that I can share my veganism with other people, the most effective way to get them to perceive it in a positive way is to just make it, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's just like, I'm just sharing my life, my food, and the information that I know, and the information that I'm constantly learning about it with others. And they're going to do with that what they do with it. If they do things with that information that I just personally don't want in my life, that's one thing. But like, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting completely sidetracked on this story here. But I feel like you've completely gotten my point, right? It's like the more you try to force someone to like something, the less they're going to like it. The more you try to tell your teenage daughter she can't see that boy, the more she's going to want to see it. Like, the more the more the dad tells OP, you can't have meat, the more you're going to want meat. You know what I mean? So I feel like the dad is going completely the wrong way about this and making it as uncomfortable as possible for everyone. And I do not think the kid is an a-hole at all for wanting to eat his burger, for wanting his life to not completely change. You know what I mean? Like, food is a huge part of our lives. Like, literally 3+ times every single day, always, forever. Like, food is such a huge part of our lives, and it really is important, I think, for vegans to understand that while we're coming from an emotional stance and also a logical stance, so are meat eaters. And to clarify, I'm not saying that I think eating meat is okay, but yet again, like, I do think that eating meat is okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's okay to do something that you don't know is bad. Only once you know that it's bad. And again, I understand it's really confusing nowadays, because some people will hear like, oh yeah, it's bad for sure, but then some other study or some other scientist will come out and say that that's actually not true. It's actually even better for the environments than plants. And so I understand the confusion around it. And I just have no expectation that everybody just, the second they learn about the conditions in factory farms will suddenly stop. Like, some people just don't care about animals like that. I hate that. Personally, that irks the out of me, but that's the reality of it. And I just don't think forcing people is going to help. And I'm quite sure all of the comments are going to be an NTA, because people hate vegans already. And this is why. Like, this is the prime example of showing that, like, extreme vegan who tries to force their thoughts down everyone else's throat. Like, even as a vegan, even as someone who is quite well educated on this topic, I fully admit that there's plenty of things that I don't know. There's absolutely something, or not absolutely, but I meant to say, like, there's definitely the possibility that I will hear some information that will make me want to go back to eating animals. Unlikely. It's been many a year. I've had many a conversation, and every single meat eater says the same old crap I heard 100 times already. But I do genuinely, each time I talk to a new person about it who wants to have any sort of debate or conversation, like, I genuinely get a little excited. Like, I'm hoping to hear something that makes me think, that makes me reconsider my thought. I love reconsidering my thoughts. Even when they're one that I, like, am quite sure is a good thought as it is, why not challenge it then? Like, if you know it's a good thought, you know it's solid and backed, what's the problem with challenging it? You know what I mean? I don't know. So let's go down to the comments and make sure, but I'm quite sure everyone's going to be an NTA. Yeah, flipping out on you and your aunt is not okay, and giving you the silent treatment, that's a control tactic that's not healthy in any relationship. Also, yeah, it's just the reaction of the father. I didn't even read the rest of that comment. The reaction of the father sounds like the reaction of a teenage boy or girl, like a teenager. Like, what do you mean the person did something you didn't like and you're gonna give them the silent treatment? Like, a grown-ass man who's incapable of controlling their emotions enough to communicate when they're upset. Yuck. But I think we're going to go ahead and end it there, because I feel like I'm just going off on a whole little tangent. I don't even know what's going on with this AITA anymore. Thank you so much for watching. Please do let me know your thoughts down below. I know particularly that last one is like, everybody hates vegans, and I get it. I completely get it. Trust me, as a vegan myself, I kind of hate most of us. Anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.